So this time we're going to get a crosshair happening on screen, but I'm not just going to stop there. Some games have different crosshairs for different weapons. I want to set that up in such a way that it works for all of your weapons, and we're going to import some content from outside. I'm going to show you a cool website where you can get some content. All you need to do is credit the artist in the way that they have requested. So let's get started. This is opengamer.org. This is a great place for getting content. This is the crosshair pack that we're going to be using. So if I remember, I'll put this link in the description. Hopefully I do remember. Once you've hit download on the zip file, it'll download, and then you just need to unzip the file. Here's the unzipped file here. And here is the description for how this artist would like to be credited. Moving on from there, let's close that. And we can see that these have been organized very nice and neatly for us. I am going to import them pretty much as they are. So to do that, we're going to pop back to Unreal, and we've created this lovely little imports folder from when we imported our weapons. So next to that, we're going to right click and create a new folder and call this Crosshairs. Let's enter Crosshairs and let's click on import. And then to downloads, and then there's our crosshair pack. There are crosshairs. We'll start with the circles, and it's already selected which files we can import. So let's just grab all of these. Now they're imported. That's great. These were part of the circle pack. So let's create a new folder here and call this circles. We'll select them all, holding shift after we've clicked on the first one, and while clicking on the last one, drag and drop into circles, and we would like to move here. Now, once we're in here, all of these need one small adjustment to work well with our setup. You could use them just as is, but I would recommend doing the following. Right click, scroll down to Asset Actions, and we want to bulk edit via property matrix, which is just, we want to change one of the settings they all have in common. Pop over to level of detail, and here in texture group, we want to select UI. Once we've done that, we will close the property matrix. You can see here that all of these have changed. I'm going to hit save all there, and that's going to save the circles. Once that's done, I'm going to do the same process, and I'm probably going to speed it up because it'll be really boring otherwise. All right, and that's all of our crosshairs imported. We have circles, cross, simple, square, and triangle. There was nothing we could read inside of the templates folder, so we're not going to import anything from there. Now that we have our crosshairs imported, I will just make one simple note. Try not to import too many assets inside your project without vetting them first. You don't just want to shove a whole bunch of stuff in here and make the project 50, 100, 150 gigabytes. You don't want this to be a Call of Duty Warzone installation, because if you are practicing safe data management, you are also backing up this project regularly, maybe even weekly, maybe even daily, and you don't want to have a whole bunch of data that you're not using. Likewise, if you are working with other people or you want to show your project to someone on another computer, maybe they have a new NVIDIA card or an AMD card, and you want to see what your project looks like on new hardware. Rather than transferring a 50 gig project over, you could be transferring a 5 to 10 gig project, especially in the working phase. So try not to clutter your project with a million free assets. Onto the UI. Let's close our imports folder and go to user interface. We're going to pop into HUD player. And right here, we're going to drag in an image. So we're going to anchor it to the center. We're going to set the alignment to 0.5 for both of them. You can see a common theme happening here. And then we're going to set position 0, 0. The size isn't going to matter too much because we're going to customize that later. However, for now, let's just do 50 by 50 because it'll be a square. So that's where our crosshair is eventually going to go. Don't worry, it's not going to look like that. I just want to throw that in place so we have it set up for when we come back. So compile, save, test, hit play. There's our white square giving us a hard time in the middle of the screen. The magic of this is, again, going to be relevant to weapon base. So blueprints, weapons, weapon base, and in the exact same way that we created variables that we would use across every weapon, and then we can use in the UI seamlessly, we're going to do the exact same thing with an image. Pop over to variables, click the variable button. We're going to call this crosshair. Variable type will be texture 2D, hover over texture 2D, and it will be an object reference. Compile and save. And now when we click the drop down, we can see all of our crosshairs right there, which is awesome. However, the same as clip actual, clip capacity, ammo actual, ammo capacity, and all of that stuff, we don't want to change the base one. What we in fact want to do is go back over to test and change it for each of our weapons. There it is. We can select a crosshair specifically for our assault rifle. So let's open up all our weapons, and this is entirely up to you. You can pick any of the crosshairs here. You don't have to pick the exact same one I do. Even though we haven't done any code for the rocket launcher, we're also going to set that as well. It's because we can test it. So once you've picked a different crosshair for every weapon, we're ready to move back to the UI. If your tab's still not open, user interface, HUD player, mine is still open. So what we're going to do is very similar to the function we did before. We're going to click on the image, and then we're going to create a binding. Create binding. Here we are, get brush 0. We'll rename F2 to get crosshair. So we need to create a value that fits in here. So the beginning of this, easy peasy. Let's go back over to ammo actual, and most of your function tabs will stay open unless you close them, even between instances. So let's grab our clip actual. We need reference hero, equipped weapon, child actor, and weapon base cast. Copy that over to crosshair, and we'll paste that in. So let's get our crosshair image, get crosshair, and there is our 2D texture. We can't just plug this in. Let's drag out here and say make slate brush. Here are all the categories that we can fill out for this. And what do we have here? There's that image. If we drag and drop crosshair down to that image and then hit that button right there to collapse it again, that should do the trick. Let's hit compile, hit save, back to test, hit play. And there is the crosshair that I selected for the assault rifle. Now, if I press 2, it switches to the one I selected for the pistol. 3 selects the one that I selected for the shotgun. 4 for the sniper rifle, and 5 for the rocket launcher. Now, once you hit escape, you'll notice that we have an error on screen. And this error is HUD player, our widget, couldn't get crosshair from cast to weapon base. When you start your game, everything within the world gets spawned at a certain time. Something that can happen is that one element that depends on another element, or one actor that depends on another actor, might spawn outside their respective time. So here we would need the weapon to spawn before the HUD so the HUD can read the weapon. So what this error tells me, and this is kind of from experience that I can say this, is that the weapon isn't spawning quick enough for that first cast. However, it's happening so quickly that we don't see it. So in the case that you have this here, because I mean, the idea is that you are developing a game and these errors are meant to help you make sure that your game isn't buggy. This isn't really an issue at the moment. So to keep our error log minimized, pop back over to HUD player, and we're going to get an IsValid node. Now, the IsValid node, this question mark here, is just going to ask, does this exist? Is this a happening thing? If it's not a happening thing, then it's not going to do anything, which is exactly what we want. We don't want to return an error if we don't have to, and we don't have to here. Now, don't use this for every single problem you have, because sometimes that error is telling you, hey, you got to fix this if you want your game to function properly. However, in this case, I can tell you, it's all good, it's fine, we can use it. Strangely enough, we're not getting this error from our ammunition, just for the crosshair. Let's compile and save and see if that fixed our problem. Pressing play, pressing escape, and the error is gone. So our crosshair's not going to freak out. And even better, if you wanted to, you could have a default crosshair sitting right here in wait. So if you can't get to the weapon base, we can copy over this return node and the make slate brush. And if we can't read the player for whatever reason, because remember that the HUD is technically spawning after the player by nanoseconds, we could select another image here. Let's just select one for random. And then if you didn't have a weapon equipped, this would be your non-weapon equipped HUD. Let's do cross 2. So that's what will spawn if we can't read the player. But that will leave it there for now. We have imported crosshairs. We have separate crosshairs for every single weapon. And that's pretty cool. So I'll see you in the next one.